A very good afternoon and welcome to this webinar on the outlook and key trends shaping the food services industry. My name is Adeline and I'm from DBS Food and Agribusiness Industry team. It's my pleasure to be your MC for this afternoon. For today's webinar, we are pleased to have with us various industry experts to share their insights. The webinar will begin with DBS research team Mavis, who will provide an overview of our research findings on the food services sector. Following which, there will be a panel discussion with industry leaders from Domino's, foodpanda, and Maxim, led by Chin as the moderator. Throughout the session, should you have any questions, please feel free to email them to foodagri@dbs.com. Let's now invite our industry group head, Mr. Adrian Chai, to say a few words. Adrian is our Managing Director, Industry Head, covering several key industries, including consumer products and services, food and agribusiness, healthcare and pharmaceuticals, as well as metals and mining. Before this role, he was the head of Institutional Banking Group with DBS China, leading the transformation of the business into a diversified commercial and investment banking franchise with strong regional connectivity. Adrian, please.
A warm welcome to everyone and thank you for joining us this afternoon. COVID-19 has changed our lives dramatically, disrupting the economy, society, and lifestyles. Food services sector is certainly not spared, being one of the hardest hit industries from the lockdown in countries and strict social distancing measures imposed. The pandemic has resulted in a shift in consumers' behavior, driving digitalisation and surge in the food delivery market. In China, food delivery market has a market size of approximately renminbi 650 billion, and we are expecting an increase in penetration rate from 14% to 20% in a single year. Likewise, across ASEAN, countries like Singapore, Indonesia, Thailand, and Malaysia have also seen positive pickup in online food deliveries. ASEAN countries are expected to achieve 21% sales CAGR in the food delivery market with a forecasted market size of $29 billion by 2025. This webinar, we will deep dive into the impact of COVID-19 on the food services sector with focus on Greater China, Singapore, Indonesia, and Thailand. Be it optimizing operating efficiencies, adoption of digital tools, or venturing into new revenue streams, we will learn how restaurant operators pivot their business and stay relevant amidst the changing landscape. At DBS, we offer a comprehensive suite of cash management services and digital solutions for food services players like API payments and QR solutions such as DBS Max, which can help facilitate B2C and B2B collections. For more information, feel free to reach out to your RMs for a more in-depth discussion. I hope you have an insightful session ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Adrian. Next, we have Mavis from DBS research team, who will provide an update on our research findings based on the latest report released for the food services sector, preparing for a new normal. Mavis is currently the team lead for China and Hong Kong consumer research at DBS. She is also one of the key analysts in regional consumer and has been in equity research since 2000. Mavis, please.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks very much for joining us today. I am Mavis Hui of DBS Group Research. Our regional consumer team has interviewed major restaurant groups across Asia to see how we could survive better through the COVID-19 pandemic and prepare for a new normal. Let me start off sharing with you a quick overview of regional performances in the food service sector, followed by some key findings from our survey, as well as some newer trends in the industry. On the slide here, in terms of regional performance, on the left chart, this is the number of new COVID-19 cases per 10 million people. The red line denotes China, which recovers the fastest, followed by Thailand, which is represented by the orange line. Singapore and Hong Kong took some time to improve, while Indonesia, in the grey line, has seen new waves of infections in September, with Jakarta taking 1 month to start reopening gradually by middle of October. The right chart also shows restaurant sales trends that resembled well with magnitude of the pandemic. While we are seeing positive progress in vaccine trials since the second week of November, any successful vaccines will still take some time to become widely available, and the impacts of COVID-19 in the coming months could remain uncertain. On to the next page. On the left chart, you can see that nominal GDP growth versus restaurant sales are very closely correlated. But this time, the pandemic this year has caused extensive periodic lockdowns, sustained social distancing policy that reduces seating capacities, and more home dining. Hence, restaurant sales undershoot GDP performance significantly this year. Nevertheless, on the back of economic rebounds and low base effects, we expect restaurant sales rebounds to overshoot GDP growth next year by a good extent. On to the next page. In our base case scenario for second half of 2020, we expect restaurant sales in China to only edge down by 1% year-on-year, given the fast recovery. As Hong Kong, Singapore, and Thailand are estimated to see 20 to 24% of their restaurant sales coming from tourist consumption in past few years, they could take some more time to see a full recovery, despite the number of new COVID-19 cases have diminished. Say, Thailand has already seen a minimal number of cases since May 2020, but we still expect its restaurant sales to post an 8% decline for the second half this year. As Singapore and Hong Kong saw more volatile pandemic developments during second quarter and third quarter, our base case scenario points to 17% decline in restaurant sales for Singapore and a 23% sales dip for Hong Kong in the second half of 2020. Indonesia is more domestic driven and is projected to experience a 21% restaurant sales decline despite more recent waves of pandemic in September to October. As visibility on the development of COVID-19 remains low, we have also included our worst case scenario in the middle chart here that assume resurgence or new waves of coronavirus infections towards late 2020, in which we could expect 16 to 32% drop in restaurant sales for full year of 2020 across 5 regions that we focus on. Nevertheless, by 2021, on a low base, we project the restaurant and catering industry to stage a 21% growth in China, 15% growth in Hong Kong. Singapore, Thailand, and Indonesia should also see at least 10%. All these markets makes a good sense in terms of growth, as economic growth are also expected to see a firm rebound across all 5 regions next year, in the range of 4.5% to 7.7%, as shown on the right chart. On the next page, as seen in the table below, which shows last year's estimated profit and loss breakdowns across the restaurant industries in various regions, we can actually see that total cost of goods sold, which averaged at 32% of sales, and staff costs, which averaged at 28% of sales, have altogether took up as much as 60% of total sales. Hence, any restaurant groups that could be better controlled in terms of their cost of goods sold and trim their staff expenses should help overall earnings in the industry. In view of 2020's significant sales slump that has caused by COVID-19, perhaps except for China that recovers the fastest so that its restaurant industry should start to resume profitability by second half this year, most other places would see their restaurant operators suffering from sustained losses. On the other hand, government subsidies and support schemes should help to provide some buffers. This is especially seen in Hong Kong and Singapore, in which key operators should be able to withstand over 30% sales dip into second quarter and third quarter this year to still achieve break-even operations. On the next page, In our survey during third quarter 2020, we interviewed 16 major restaurant groups, as listed on the left table here, which altogether operate over 20,000 restaurants and eateries in Asia. A majority of these key operators expect that we could start seeing a full recovery sometime into 2021. Only 6% believe that we need to wait till 2022. Overall, on the right chart, we have full-service restaurants, fast food shops, cafes, and other eateries. And according to the data here, we can see that mass to mid-end eateries, such as fast food stores, have been a more resilient model so far this year. Hence, restaurant groups increasingly change their menus and partner with delivery players accordingly to improve the situation and performance. On the next page, as restaurant operators re-strategize their business models to survive better under a new normal during the pandemic, our survey finds that managements place hygiene and food safety as their first priority, as this is also tying directly to their reputation and customer experience. For instance, Harvard Business School found that any change in star rating of crowdsourced reviews on Yelp.com could affect restaurant sales by 5.9%. Other important areas to look at right away would include their ability to offer takeaways and deliveries, as well as overall store efficiency, followed by reviews on product innovation, scale of expansion, and merger and acquisition opportunities. On to the next page. In terms of food deliveries and takeaway, on the left chart here, you can see that China leads in the online food delivery sector, which took up 14% of its restaurant sales in 2019. Meituan also expects penetration rate of food deliveries in China to jump to 20% for the full year of 2020 and continues to provide strong growth potentials ahead. Average value per order of online delivery could also increase from 45 RMB in 2019 to nearly 50 RMB in 2020. To give some examples, the middle chart shows that food delivery penetration for chain restaurants in China improved significantly post-COVID-19, particularly for quick service restaurants or eateries that are better catered to deliveries. These include Yoshinoya, Dairy Queen, as well as Yum China's KFC and Pizza Hut, which have seen a big jump in the percentage of online food delivery by about 10 percentage points as compared to pre-COVID levels. As per the right chart, top 6 ASEAN countries are also expected to achieve double-digit CAGR in their online food delivery markets up to 2025. These include Thailand, that could post a 28% sales CAGR, Indonesia, a 21% sales CAGR, and Singapore, a 12% sales CAGR during 2018 to 2025, all showing promising prospects. On the next page, in terms of store model and operating efficiency, full-service restaurants adjust their menus in order to cater for more takeaways and food deliveries. Operators will also accelerate technological applications at the store level, such as KFC in the middle table here, replacing manned cashiers with digital cashiers for about a third of its stores in China, to replace a total of 6,000 manned cashiers. The group is estimated to have saved 168 million RMB in the first year of replacement, and then 242 million RMB per annum, starting from the second year of replacement, which are quite substantial savings. Nevertheless, none of the companies we interviewed said that they would launch fully automated robotic restaurants in due course, as they are too costly to build at this stage. Finally, on the next page, some newer trends could also include live streaming and cloud kitchens. On the left chart, we can see that live streaming online sales in China proposed strong growth to double in 2020. Cloud kitchens also help to minimize rental and staff costs, and we have seen more of these over the past few months, including some that have converted from selected restaurants that used to rely heavily on tourist consumptions. Most regions are also seeing restaurants cutting their scale of store expansion this year, perhaps except for China, as seen on the right chart here, with Haidilao, for instance, ramping up its store expansion plan to open 400 stores this year, which is even higher than company's original target of 300 new stores that was set in early 2020. Many restaurant operators are planning to catch up in their store openings by 2021, but some might still go for more fast food shops and mass mid-end, with smaller store sizes, but better ability for takeaways and deliveries. This is a quick summary of our findings, and thank you very much for watching.
Thank you for the very insightful sharing, Mavis. We'll now move to our panel. The moderator is Mr. Chin Yok Pao, Head of Food and Agribusiness Industry Team in DBS. He is joined by industry leaders from Dominos, foodpanda, and Maxims. Chin leads a team of industry and relationship managers and drives the F&A strategy globally with our country teams on the ground. Prior to joining DBS, he started his corporate finance career in NM Rothschild & Sons and Jardine Fleming, and later JP Morgan Investment Banking Group, where he was responsible for originating and leading execution of investment banking mandates. Chin, please.
Hello and good afternoon from Singapore. Welcome to the DBS Food Services Industry webinar. We are extremely honored to have with us today three veterans from the food delivery platform, QSR and restaurant industry. Our first guest is Ms. Eileen Wang, who has been the CEO of Domino China since 2017. Domino has currently 300 restaurants with a revenue of renminbi 1 billion. Under her leadership, Domino tripled the store counts to achieve double-digit growth in SSSG and 50% annual sales growth. Proud to Domino, she held senior positions in McDonald's and played a pivotal role in developing the franchise in China. Our second guest is Mr. Keith Siu, CFO of Maxim Group since 2008. Maxim is a former multi-format and regional food service player with presence including Hong Kong, China, Singapore, just to name a few. Before joining Maxim, he held senior positions with McDonald's and Burger King, setting up and growing their operation in China. Our final guest is Mr. Pidram Asadi, COO of foodpanda since January 2009. In his current role, he oversees all current business operations in the region and spearheads the commercial growth and expansion across the 12 markets. Pidram began his career within the food service industry 6 years ago, having started his own food delivery company in the Middle East. COVID has indeed impacted the consumer behavior in the food services industry. From the findings of DBS Asian Sparks report, we noted the key priorities of restaurant operators under the new landscape, including hygiene and safety, takeout and delivery, store models, menu and pricing, and operating efficiency. COVID has brought new concerns about hygiene and safety. The question is, how do we bring back confidence in consumers in both dining out and at home from delivery? What are the changes in terms of menu and pricing, store model layout, and operating model can we expect? Eileen, would you like to share with us some of the measures that Domino's has put in place in this COVID world?
So Domino's has been a delivery brand established from 1960. So since day one, it has very strong food safety system. So we're always sticking to the same food safety system. Now, during the COVID situation, we actually implemented more strict food safety procedures. For example, our riders will wear masks, they wash hands, we do more sanitization. And then we are also one of the few players to actually launch contactless delivery and also contactless carry out early in the industry. So by doing all of that, we're trying to provide very safe and high quality product and service to our customers. So in terms of what's changed after COVID, I think it's too soon to tell that dine-in will not come back forever. We do see that dine-in is still sort of not recurring to what it was before, and delivery has been growing very strongly. But that said, I think dine-in is a need for some of the customers. So we're still not changing our store format. We are a delivery-focused brand, so we started to be more delivery-focused location, but we still keep some dining area for our customers. So I think the other thing is that after COVID, our customers probably want value more than before, and as a brand, we should offer real value to customers during the difficult.
Keith, as a multi-format player, how is Maxim going to bring back the crowd?
Actually, hygiene and food safety is always our priority or focus even before COVID. But we need to adapt to be more, to do more in order to maintain our customer confidence, especially after the outbreak of the COVID-19. With all the restrictions or regulations on social distancing, we need to make sure that we have a safe environment for the dine-in, as we have so many restaurants that is doing this kind of business. And also need to provide very good in terms of food safety for the food takeaway or delivery. In fact, we need to tune our operation procedure, such as to strengthen the cleaning and sanitizing procedures, minimize the human contact, such as the order taking by taking your own mobile device, or the payment or check out the bills by using the contactless payment instead of cash. And even for measuring the body temperature, we need to we have implement some equipment that has an auto alert, and so that when the customer enter into restaurants, we know that they are safe to come into our restaurants for dine-in. Besides that, we need to strengthen the social distancing measure, which including to manage the layout, the table setting, and use of the partition in the dining area, so that we can keep the social distancing measures in our restaurants. As with less sitting, we have provided a special menu for easy ordering, and also the more discount to encourage more takeaway business through the online ordering.
Mr. Pedram, foodpanda has benefited from the surge in demand for food delivery as a result of the pandemic. Do you see this trend continuing in the future? Do you see an emergence of an O2O model similar to what we have seen in the retail industry? Will there be more investment in club kitchens or central kitchen to capture this demand?
I would like to answer the question in two parts, the first one being on the growth trends and the second one on the cloud kitchens. The first one on the growth trends, we get that question quite often these days. And to answer that question, it's important to take a step back and look at the demand trends before the pandemic started. So actually, if you look at the demand, food deliveries, online food deliveries were already growing month over month very quickly before the pandemic started. When the pandemic started, the food delivery industry was impacted two ways. The first one was that the restaurant ecosystem struggled because of all the dining restrictions. And the second one was that at the same time, we saw an immense increase in new customers joining our platform for the first time and trying online food delivery for the first time. It's worth to mention here that we have been operating for almost 10 years in many of the countries, and there is a large segment of consumers that only now tried it for the first time. So I think to summarize it, the pandemic really shifted everything into a high gear. And for that, we had to quickly figure out how to help all the restaurants on our platform and to help them to connect to the consumers who couldn't go dine in or go out anymore. And on the other hand, the result was that the consumers have to come to appreciate the convenience of food and grocery delivery. We actually expect that demand to hold and either further accelerate. The next part of the question is, how can restaurants actually utilize and ride this growth wave? And to answer that question, I think the big part of the answer is digitalization. So many restaurants didn't digitalize before the pandemic. And with the surge in demand for deliveries, we had to quickly figure out how to help them and immediately step in to support thousands of restaurants to digitalize very quickly and save their businesses, especially small and medium-sized restaurants. During the pandemic, foodpanda enabled restaurants to earn revenues and grow digitally. And what we did is we accelerated the onboarding process for all those restaurants that wanted to join our platform. And hence we doubled up the number of our restaurants in the first half of 2020. It's worth mentioning here also that in Singapore, a good example is that we onboarded thousands of hawker stalls that weren't online before. And to support them specifically, we waived our onboarding and commission fees for the first month after joining. We focused our marketing efforts and consumer demand towards those restaurants to really give a helping hand and support them with cash flow and business during this time. The second question is interesting. It's about cloud kitchens. So here, obviously, with the growth of food delivery, online food delivery, we see that the ventures that are part of the platform and the ecosystem enjoy some growth as well, cloud kitchen being one of them. So cloud kitchens also similarly before the pandemic were growing also in all over the world in different segments. And we see a lot of players entering that industry. Cloud kitchens, is worth to say here, is that it has been a bit of a buzzword in the past. And when we make decisions into new ventures, we look at them strategically and we look at them also in what value are they adding. So we do build cloud kitchens, but not for the sake of it, but actually look at the value that it creates. So here it's important to say that cloud kitchens, when we build them, we look at it a very local approach and city by city and zone by zone. And the one metric that's important to us is that it actually adds value. And it's important to say here as well that cloud kitchens don't add value everywhere and they're not needed everywhere. Our approach is always to be very local and have a very localized approach. And we stay very laser focused on the value that they bring. So on cloud kitchens, to summarize, for vendors, there is a huge benefit. They can expand into new zones and reach new consumers that they didn't reach before in a very low capex manner. And for consumers, it allows to order from new cuisine categories, for instance, healthy food that they couldn't find previously. Our stance is we do have a large number of cloud kitchens across our 12 countries we're operating, and we're further scaling this up, but very, very focused on the value that they bring.
Thank you. Eileen, Domino is a delivery-focused brand. Are you seeing similar trends and opportunities?
We do. So as I mentioned before, delivery has been growing very strongly. I think one of the reasons, as Pedro mentioned, is that people are switching from dine-in to delivery. And the other thing is that once you started to do online ordering for food or online ordering for grocery, you overcome that barrier of registration online, and then delivery becomes easier for you as a daily option. On the second question on cloud kitchen, I think as a brand, you should judge two things. Does that mean that dine-in will never come back? So if dine-in comes back and you don't have the space of dine-in, will you actually lose the opportunity to generate enough sales from that part? And the other thing is that do people actually trust you as a new brand if they only see you online without seeing the real store? Right? These are the things I think brands should consider.
Chief, over to you. Maxim is a multi-format player. So with the new landscape, are you seeing similar opportunities and trends?
Yes, we know that food delivery or takeaway business has become more important to the restaurants or the food business besides dine-in, even before the pandemic. And it has been grow up a lot after the outbreak of the COVID-19 for the past few months, especially. So we know that the demand is there, and then it's going forward that we need to depend on which restaurant or food business that you are in, and we still need to keep the dine-in or traditional way of providing food services as the customers still want to come out for dining and enjoy good food and services in the restaurants. Besides that, you provide the food delivery or takeaway. And I think that this one is you can see that happen whenever there is any relaxations of the social distancing restriction from the government. It happened that there's a lot more customers to our restaurant to dine in. So I would say that the dine-in business still very important to us. But in addition to it, I think food delivery and serve or takeaway business is also very important to us such that it can contribute to our business growth in the future. As for the second question about the cloud kitchens or the central kitchen that you mentioned about, although there appears to be a very it's a sustained increase in the delivery volume in various markets, and the cloud kitchen can do more business with that, of course. But we need to consider a lot of factors, even though in fact we have do some research or the feasibility study on whether we can do a cloud kitchen or central kitchen in certain areas. But we need to, when we make the decisions, we need to consider several factors, like, say, for example, the sustainability of the delivery business, as it may be temporary. It could be drop after the COVID-19, which has been fixed, and how much that we will be sustained after the pandemic, especially. And we also need to consider the CapEx that we need to put in to build a cloud kitchen or a central kitchen. And of course, the most important part is that the consumption patterns, the menu variety, and the food that you can offer to the community.
Given the demand destruction we have experienced in the food services industry due to lockdown and social distancing measures, so what are the key lessons we can learn? What kind of the model in the different formats do we need to adopt to ensure a more robust and resilient business in the post-COVID world? Eileen, would you like to share your thoughts?
Yeah, so I think we're very lucky to be in delivery, since we sort of benefit from the demand during the COVID situation. And then also on digital, we find that even for dine-in customers, we encourage them to actually get our own online platform. So once we get their contact information, we can keep in contact with them. This is actually quite helpful for us in the longer term too. During the most difficult time of the COVID situation, even when at the beginning delivery was actually down, we actually chose to stay open because we think we're part of the community. So it's not only about doing business, but also about sort of giving people the service and food they need. So when doing that, I think customers actually pay back with more trust after the COVID situation. And finally, as I mentioned before, the value perception is very important during the whole situation, during COVID and also after COVID. So when you give value to customers, to help them during the difficult situation, it has to be real value. People understand it's not very technical, it's quite consistent, and then it's really good benefits over price. And then your customers will actually appreciate you and pay back with more visits.
Indeed, consumers should be the center of all our planning, even in the post-COVID world. Keith, how about Maxim's? What do you see in the new landscape that what kind of strategy is Maxim adopting?
Actually, with all the challenges that we have faced from this pandemic, we must be ready for any quick reactions and decision to react to any abnormal business situation like this. We actually, for the second question, that there is no definite answer, but we know that we need to be more agile and innovative. And I believe that no one single restaurant models can stand out to be more successful than one another, as it really depends on how you tune your business model for a good mix of the restaurant type, the store size, menu, and technology to suit your customer demand. And of course, at the end of the day, we need to deliver the results in any adverse business environment by making a right decision.
Over to you, Mr. Pedram. As a food delivery platform player evolving into a O2O food service player, are you seeing similar trend?
Yeah, definitely. Here I would want to really emphasize the importance of the digitalization of restaurants and the new normal after COVID. I think if you compare the online food delivery industry even to the e-commerce one, you see that we're very early in the life cycle. And I would say that the trend that we see going forward is a further digitalization of the F&B industry. Our role here as a platform is to help restaurants to come on board digitally on our digital platform quickly and reach a new group of consumers they weren't reaching before. And especially for small and medium-sized restaurants, they were impacted greatly by the pandemic. That's of utmost importance. So this is what we will be continuing focusing on. While the pandemic really drove an incremental demand for us, we also saw a new group of consumers trying our food delivery for the first time. So specifically older demographics who had never used the online food delivery before came on our platform and tried it. And we see that after someone tries it for 2 or 3 times, that shapes kind of the consumer behavior and makes it a new normal in a way. Our expectation for the new normal post COVID-19 is threefold. So firstly, we see that food deliveries will continue to grow as consumers have come to rely on the convenience of home deliveries. And on the second hand, we see that restaurants and grocery businesses will further optimize their operations and menus for online deliveries. We see that currently, if you see the menus online or offline, they're almost same. So we think that, and we see a trend of restaurants being able to further optimize their menu and optimizing it towards online food deliveries. And lastly, we see also more consumers to look for more than just food, so like home deliveries for daily essentials and groceries. And therefore, we also expedited the launch of our own cloud grocery store business called Panda Mart, where we've seen tremendous growth over the last months. And as deliveries become a more integral part of our consumer daily lives, this has become an essential service for them.
Thank you, Eileen, Keith, and Pedram for the very insightful sharing. Wise words indeed from our industry veterans, and we need to be agile and innovative to ensure the business stays resilient and flexible in different environments. We hope this webinar has provided you with new learnings to navigate the challenges ahead. You may still email questions after this session to foodagri@dbs.com. Thank you again for joining us today. Stay safe, stay healthy.